Welcome to the third video in the series, where I tackled the challenge of creating a cinematic lighting setup with basic lamps in various spaces. In each video my goal is to make them educational, sometimes intentionally showing what can go wrong during improvised setup. Last time I showed you how problematic it can be to light a scene where someone wants to have a working TV in the frame. Today we are working in a small studio space designed to look like a teenager's room from a few decades ago. This space, about 20 square meters, features vintage furniture and a high ceiling. Unfortunately, this room is quite different from the spaces we worked in before. Let me explain why. In the first video we had an office-like room. It had a clear defined area in front of the desk, which naturally drew attention to the center of the room. The same went for the living room in our second video. The action was best placed in the center, especially in front of the TV, where the vintage furniture surrounded a distinct working space. This clear separation allowed us to use different lighting techniques for the furniture and the model. Now let's look at our new space. The room has a desk and an old couch pushed against the wall. Typically for a photo session we would place the model in the center, using the room as a 3D background, as I put myself in my other videos. But today we are going for a more realistic setup. We want our model or actors to be in practical spots in the room, like in front of the desk or lounging on the couch. And of course, to make things even more challenging, we will be setting up the scene as wide as possible, making it harder to hide any lights close to the model. Let's see how can we creatively tackle this challenge. I set up my main camera aiming at the corner with a wide view. Probably you can already see that this kind of wide framing is not working great with the space, which is in my opinion too cluttered and with no definition of a real room. This is because the room was designed for close-up shots, where the blurred posters in the background look great. The studio has industrial-grade windows. They are quite high and frankly not very appealing. Since we are on the third floor and I can't access the window from the outside, I decided to cover them with a piece of wood, masked with posters. Unfortunately, now we've got basically a corner and a lot of busy wall content in front of the camera. This setup presents a major challenge. There's almost no room to place lights behind the main scene. In cinematography, you can imagine a line crossing the main part of your scene, perpendicular to the camera's axis. Lights set behind this line backlight your subjects, exposing shadows to the camera that create a more atmospheric look. On the other hand, lights placed in front of this line can make your scene look flat, like a basic television interview. As always, the first step I took was to turn off all the technical lighting and minimize the light coming from the studio windows. This helps us start with a clean slate. The next challenge is the busy walls covered with posters. To tackle this, I'm starting with practical lighting to set the mood for the space. First, I placed a single lamp on the table beside the sofa and turned on the desk lamp. Instantly, the space transformed. If you know your camera settings well, you could even capture some atmospheric shots using just these practical lights. This really demonstrates the power of practical lighting. When set up skillfully, practicals not only illuminate the scene but also enhance the overall mood and aesthetics. Even though the current moody look is quite usable, let's go further. To enhance the light from the practical lamp on the right, I'm adding a spotlight to create a motivated spill of light from outside the frame. Initially, I set the lamp to spill mode to cover the whole scene. However, positioned near the camera, this made the lighting too flat. Let's switch to our second camera angle for comparison. Positioned more to the left, it reveals more shadow definition. This small change in viewpoint significantly alters the lighting character. We'll revisit this concept of proper shadow definition throughout the video. But let's challenge ourselves with this setup. I adjusted the spotlight to illuminate only a small fraction of the scene with the right output. Now this light complements the practical without overpowering the rest of the scene. Next, I need to illuminate the space around the chair. My first test was straightforward but not ideal. I placed a strong Bowens lamp to the left of the desk, equipped with a small softbox and a grid. I aimed it to avoid lighting the back wall directly. This setup created a documentary-style look with clear separation between the subject and the background in both lighting style and color temperature. While effective for documentaries, it still felt too much like interview lighting, which isn't our goal here. But maybe we could add a little bit of haze and magically the look will be softer, the more cinematic. While a bit of smoke can sometimes transform a scene, the light from the left still felt too unnatural. So I swapped the softbox for a projection modifier. If you remember from our first video, this worked well in the office space. The projection modifier simulates light from another room and usually needs a bit of soft light to complement it. However, I went for a stylized hard lines look here. It added character to the scene, but due to its harsh characteristics and front direction wasn't entirely pleasing for model or actors. Now I will do something that in fact I should be doing from the beginning, knowing this space. I've attached a spotlight to the rail above the window. This is our first lamp positioned from the back. If you are going for an esoteric and stylized look, you can set it to a concentrated, overpowering beam aimed at the chair. Add a lot of haze and you could create some interesting artistic photography. However, that's a bit too artistic for our current goal. To achieve a more natural look, I widened the spotlight beam and adjusted its output to blend seamlessly with the illumination from the desk lamp. The spotlight should mainly outline the subject, creating a silhouette effect. Our subject and the center of the room are still quite dark. I decided to turn off the lamp on the right. This lamp works well for the subject sitting on the sofa, but I want to show you what effect can we get with a flex panel hanged above the sofa as the main source of light. Now we have a natural looking light source above the frame that looks great on human face and works well in most areas of the room. If you are satisfied with this look, you can stop here, but I've decided to add a bit of fill as a last touch. I aimed an additional lamp at the ceiling to raise the shadow levels. While this reduces some of the cinematic characteristics, it makes the lighting more realistic and improves shadow details. These shadows can always be adjusted in post-production to get the desired look, but you can't recover shadow details if there are none present in the image. At last, I want to revisit something I mentioned at the beginning. I feel that this room is not designed for a single wide shot, and it's important to use the framing correctly. Let's switch camera positions and look at the same scene from different viewpoints. The same lighting setup can look like a YouTube channel from one angle and a cinematic shot from another. Maintaining correct shadow definition is essential for a cinematic look. Without shadows, the image loses character and quality. This video series simplifies things by analyzing the lighting setups for the widest shot possible. In real cinema, every lighting setup is tailored for each shot and view angle. Even if you could create a good universal lighting setup for the space, it can look awkward in a wide shot but fantastic in close-ups. So that's a wrap. Thanks for watching and I will see you in the next video in our series. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video.